Welcome to the Fourth Branch program. Glad you can make it. I am MD. This program is dedicated exclusively for those with common sense, a spirit of patriotism, and a determination for a more perfect union. Stay tuned as we begin the discussion of a very important, interesting, and enlightening topic. Hope to hear from you soon. Happy listening. Any man can make mistakes, but only an idiot persists in his error. John F. Kennedy said, "The ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of us all." Hello everyone, I am MD and this is the Fourth Branch program. First, a warning. This program is not suitable for all audiences. I repeat, the content of this program is not for everyone. To find out if it's suitable to you, please answer the following two questions. Question 1. Would you entrust your teenage daughter to a known rapist? Question number 2. Would you have a known pedophile cared for your toddler? Once again, question 1. Would you entrust your teenage daughter to a known rapist? Question 2. Would you have a known pedophile cared for your toddler? Time is up, obviously. If you had difficulty answering either question, this program is not for you. If you answer yes to either or to both questions, this program is definitely not for you. But if both of your answers are absolutely not, this program is catered exclusively to you. You should stick around. It is enlightening, educational, and informative. Political partisanship is very healthy for a democracy, especially when it is practiced within the boundaries of patriotism. It is healthy in the sense that it helps to structure great pieces of legislations which serve the country. But keep in mind, no matter how great a piece of legislation is, not everyone will be pleased. Not everyone can be pleased. But nevertheless, it is good for any democracy. But what happens when partisanship is practiced outside the boundaries of patriotism? It is not difficult to figure out the answer. It is complete lunacy. It is idiocy. It is ridiculousness. It is an environment which is not conducive for freedom, for democracy. We are at a point today where we can say with a high degree of certainty that the United States of America is going through that very moment in time, when we can say that half the nation have gone nuts. No, this is not a fight between Democrats and Republicans. And this is not a liberal who stand to talk badly about Republican or vice versa. And it is not even about the few tragedies that have happened in the past couple of days. It is a situation much, much deeper than that. It is no surprise to anyone living right here in the United States that the situation that we have here today did not happen by accident. In July of 2015, when Donald Trump decided to bid for the presidency of the United States, everybody, almost everybody, the country unanimously considered Mr. Trump's candidacy as a sideshow. Nobody expected it to go any further. Nobody expected it to turn into anything. And as time goes by, it becomes clearer by the day that no way in the world the country will ever elect someone who has no understanding whatsoever, one, how the government works, and two, how important it is for the next president of the United States to work as hard as possible to unite the country. From the very onset, Donald Trump has made it very clear, crystal clear, he was not interested in that. As if that wasn't bad enough, millions of Americans, half the nation, decided to elect as the next president of the United States one, the least competent individual in the history of the Republic. But that's not all. The country elected an individual who is not even interested in learning, in growing, in becoming better. Each day that passes by, no matter which political party you belong to, it cannot be any obvious that there is a regression in terms of decency, in terms of integrity, in terms of normalcy. Even the individual who claim to have values, the very individual who claim to have principles and virtues, the very individual who claim to be Christians, have thrown all of those away to support an individual who does not represent any principle, who does not have any principle, any value, and does not represent any Christian value. During the presidential campaign, 2016 presidential campaign, a number of those individuals made the case that things will change. Things will turn around because as soon as Donald Trump becomes president, then he will act presidentially. At least so they hoped. So they thought. Even those who did not support him hoped and believed that there is the very possibility that, as Mr. Obama put it, the office of the presidency will humble him. Today, we have come to the conclusion that Donald Trump is not the problem that the country has. Of course, as President of the United States, his words, his action weigh a lot and impact a lot of people. But it is crystal clear to anyone, to any sound-minded individual, that Donald Trump did not cause that problem. Donald Trump took advantage of a problem that has been around for quite a few decades now. A few days ago, the vice president was interviewed in regards to those tragedies that have happened, and the question that was posed to him as to whether Donald Trump rhetoric may have anything to do with those type of actions and behavior of extreme individual. His answers, without batting an eye, without any hesitation, without any pause, no, of course not. Contrary to Donald Trump, who may not know any better, who may not have any principle, who may have not professed any kind of value, Mike Pence have been talking about being a Christian, having Christian values, and being a conservative. And yet, without any hesitation, no, how could it be possible that Donald Trump rhetoric would have anything to do with any other thing that happening? How could it be? One has to be extremely stupid, completely idiot, in order not to see the correlation. And yet, the second in command, the Vice President of the United States, without any hesitation whatsoever, any pause, at least to show to the audience that he also has some problem with those kind of rhetoric, in order, at the very least, to put in the minds of the audience, of the viewers, that yes, there is a problem with this type of rhetoric. It is understandable that he is a member of the Trump administration. But it is also understandable that as an American patriot, his primary duty is to the nation. And that example is not an isolated one either. Whether it is Lindsey Graham, or Chuck Grassley, or Paul Ryan, or Mitch McConnell, all of those individuals who swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States, all of them have relinquished their duty to advance the affairs of the country, to rally behind An individual with no principle, with no value, with no wisdom. How could it be possible that Trump rhetoric have anything to do with all those people out there threatening, fighting, bombing? How could it? Imagine your shocking surprise after you've been bashing the neighbor of all kind of names and with your family inside, and your kid goes and do something wrong to that neighbor, to the house, burn the house down, throw a rock at the neighbor. How could it possibly be that your rhetoric have anything to do with that? Would you say? So we know unequivocally that yes, Trump rhetoric since July of 2015, it has been consistent, persistent rhetoric which causes division. Rhetoric which has nothing to do with uniting the country. Rhetoric which has one purpose, one goal, one objective: to divide the country. And there is, as of date, not a single Republican legislator who is courageous enough, or scratch that, who is patriotic enough to stand and say, Mr. President, the United States of America cannot stand for those type of lunacy. Not a single individual in the Republican Party. And yet, they want to claim to have to live in higher ground. They are conservative. They are Christian. How is it possible at all that the United States of America is now led by a party, all the members of which have no values, no principle, no integrity, and live under the banner of this is the party that's doing great thing for the country. Any sound-minded individual can easily say without any hesitation that what is currently going on in the United States is definitely bad. And it is not pure rhetoric to say this is not what the country is supposed to be. This is not what democracy looks like. The country is not only being governed by an army of lunatics, but what makes it even worse is those celebrities who have a microphone. Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, and the whole gang use their platform to dumbify the Republican constituent. No, it is not Donald Trump which has caused this situation. He has taken advantage of it for sure. He has exacerbated the situation, no doubt. But the Republican Party has been going down that path for quite some time now. If you are a Republican constituent, if you are a member of the Republican Party, know this. It is today your job, your sacred duty as a citizen of the United States, to vote those Republican legislators in Washington out of office. It is not an if or a but. The very future of the country depends on that. It is at stake. The country cannot just become great by leaving it in the hands of those who refuse to act as protectors of the nation. The country cannot become great when you have members of a political party who controls all the branches of the government categorically refuse to do anything to elevate the country. For 8 years now, the Republicans have been in complete control of both houses. And 2 years ago, they have also the executive branch. And yet, as of date, nothing that the Republican Party has done is for the benefit of the majority. If you are a Republican constituent, the responsibility to help redeem the nation, to help redeem the integrity of the presidency, to help establish some balance in our government lies completely on your shoulder. Because it is time to recognize that a political party is not going to save the nation. And from that point, we should only elect those who want to do what's good for the nation. Not what's good for themselves, not what's good for their agenda, not what's good for their political party, but rather what is good for the United States of America. It may be close to being too late to save the United States from the bottom of the pit it has fallen. For your kids, for your grandkids, for your great-grandkids, it is time we take over the nation. We take over the governing of the nation from those we have entrusted to do the job but refused to do so, or chose to do something completely different from what they were elected to do. There is just one United States of America. It is just one big ship. We are all in that ship. And when it is sinking, it's not just going to be the Democrat or the Republican. So it is time to get rid of those bad elements in Washington, which for decades have been there and refused to work for the sake of the people. It is time. It is well overdue. For the country is not divided between Democrats and Republicans, but rather between those who seek the truth and wisdom and those who choose to stay and to live in ignorance. In 1996, a small network by the name of Fox News
was launched with just 17 million viewers. Today, with over 100 million people watching regularly, Fox has become the greatest threat to our democracy. Constantly bombarding the airwaves with false information, distortion of facts, and outright lies, presenting to its audience as news, Fox has created an army of blissful ignorance. According to a recent survey, 82% of Fox viewers are ignorant of facts and the truth. To keep millions of people in ignorance not only prevents democracy from flourishing, but it also clears the path to authoritarianism, to dictatorship. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Let me finish by saying that democracy cannot survive in an environment where truth and facts do not matter. At Fox, truth and facts do not matter. Indeed, democracy in America is in jeopardy. It is a crisis the country can no longer ignore.
There is, at this point in our country, a fight between lunacy and wisdom or common sense. Cicero, a Roman philosopher who lived in 63 BC, said that any man can make mistakes, but only an idiot persists in his errors. Indeed, ignorance is indeed the biggest threat to any democracy. It is, however, ignorance of the ignorance which represents the greatest danger to any society. It is what turns an ignorant into a lunatic. Thus lies the danger, the peril even of a man, a community, a state, a country, and yes, a society. John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, that the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of us all. Indeed, it does. All men are born ignorant. Many have chosen to stay and live in ignorance, but only a few recognize that ignorance is the root and stem of all evil and have made the choice to be ignorant no more. The line between lunacy and wisdom cannot possibly be mistaken, cannot be confused, or even compared to anything else. In fact, I would go as far as saying that even a complete idiot should be able to distinguish between the two. For instance, a lunatic may think that if he adds 2 to 2, there is a possibility the outcome might not be 4. If he asks others, less lunatic, acquaintances, co-workers, and even family members. Now, for the lunatic, after everyone suggests that, the outcome is 4, he may still be unable to shake off his lunacy. So he sets out to prove that everybody but him is wrong. So he goes on to add 2 to 2 and find for himself that the outcome is 4. He does it again and again and again. He's not satisfied because he just doesn't want the outcome to be 4, no matter how obvious it is. His hope is that someday, if he continues to add 2 to 2, the outcome would be different. In normal parlance, we call that lunacy. However, a wise man who adds 2 to 2 and come up with 4, and even if he confers with others, he might even go and look for references, patterns, or whatever else to help prove or reject the outcome. The wise man would put 2 apples on one side, 2 apples on another side, and count one by one by one, and would come eventually to 4. At that point, the wise man, the intelligent man, would conclude that 2 plus 2 are 4. That's wisdom. That's intelligence. As you can see, both the lunatic and the wise man may start at the same place, but the lunatic will stay ignorant because of his inability or his unwillingness to accept proven wisdom. Now, there is something eerily similar to that in the Republican circle. This is lunacy that prevails. But don't take my word for it. During the Obama administration, Republican legislators attempted 62 times to repeal the Healthcare Act, aka Obamacare. That's lunacy. Already under the Trump administration, they have tried twice and failed. A few days ago, in an interview, according to Bloomberg, Senate leader Mitch McConnell promised to take another stab at repealing Obamacare if the Republicans keep the House, he said. In their lunacy, Republican legislators are keen to deprive 20 plus million individuals who are currently insured under the Healthcare Act. That is madness. And you see, despite the opposition to the Healthcare Act, which provides coverage to millions of individuals, a number of Republicans, including, listen to this, Ted Cruz, now pretend they would want to keep key provisions of Obamacare. Now, in case you weren't paying attention earlier, I mentioned just a short time ago that during the Obama tenure as president, Republican legislature in Washington, not one Republican, not two Republican, all the Republicans, both in Congress and the Senate, had attempted 62 times to get rid of Obamacare. But now they pretend they want to keep it. This, under the Trump administration alone, they already tried twice. And if we take Mitch McConnell's word, there is going to be a third time if they keep the House, because that's what Mitch McConnell said. So, a number of Republicans, including Ted Cruz, pretend they would want to keep Obamacare. Republicans have not only reached the pyramidion of lunacy that we already know, but they have also become the grandmaster of the art of deception. For 64 times now, virtually all Republican legislators in Washington have opposed Obamacare since its inception. They have tried every trick in the book to deprive millions of individuals of healthcare coverage. But that's not even all. There are 14 Republican governors across the nation that had deprived constituents of their respective states the ability to enroll in that Healthcare Act. 14 governors across the nation. It's not because the constituents don't want it, it's because those governors refuse to provide them with the opportunity to get this type of coverage. So which means 14 states in the country, people with pre-existing condition cannot get health insurance because their governors, Republican governors that is, made the decision for them. Now you tell me, is it what you elected those people for? Instead of working to help you improve your lives, they are the one not only causing harm to you, to your family, but at the same time doing things to people, trying to do things to people across the nation. They're not satisfied harming, hurting people in their respective state, but they want to take it to the national level. There is indeed a high degree of lunacy in the Republican circle. But what's even more troubling is the fact that the constituents seem to be well ahead of understanding the importance not only of the healthcare itself, but also of other benefits, pieces of legislation that good for the constituent. So the constituents understand that, but the legislators either do not understand, do not care, or do not have the constituent best interest at heart. The problem is not confined to the legislators, by the way. Pundits such as Sean Hannity, Lauren Graham, Tucker Carlson, Rush Limbaugh, Ann Coulter, Steve Bannon, and the likes, who command millions of listeners across the nation, have been at the roots of the lunacy in the Republican Party. They sound very convincing when telling their audiences that 2 + 2 are not really 4, no matter what you hear. There is nothing to support their rationale, by the way, but they believe it's a correct one. And the sad thing is their audiences tend to believe them. It is sometimes impossible to distinguish between a lunatic mind and the callous behavior towards the listeners. But one thing is common among them all. They all rely on the ignorance of their audiences to keep their job, to stay wealthy, even if it means to bring the country down, to dumbify their audiences. You see, despite their claims to the contrary, it is blatantly obvious that Republicans in general are unpatriotic. They express it very openly when they support foreign entity to interfere in our elections. They express it publicly when they support a president who on the world stage diminish the importance of the very institution which protect our democracy and our national interests. And yes, they have said it out loud in more than one occasion. That is not politics. That's lunacy. There is a big difference between lunacy and wisdom. Most Republicans have proven time and again they have embraced lunacy and they wear it almost as a badge of honor. It is such a lunacy, it had plunged the country into the predicament it is now today. So the big divide is nothing more than a fight between intelligence and lunacy, wisdom and lunacy, knowledge and ignorance, wisdom and gullibility. And those who are in a position to remedy the problem want their constituent to stay ignorant, to be gullible, and to embrace lunacy. The ignorance of their audience guarantees them a job and helps them to preserve, well, their wealth. Why should they change that? Why should they help to change that? Think about it. It is their pocketbook. The ignorance of their audience is what brings them money. The ignorance of their audience is what keeps them afloat. So they want to keep their audiences ignorant. Unfortunately, the audiences don't grasp that. They keep pushing the idea that 2 plus 2 are only 4 in the Democratic side. But it's not 4. And the audience, their audiences buys it. And we know that because we've talked to their audiences. We talk to them, we listen to them, we hear their rationale. In their mind, 2 plus 2 cannot be 4 because Sean Hannity says it's not 4. 2 plus 2 cannot be 4 because Tucker Carlson says it's not 4. They heard it at Fox. They heard it on Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, all those individuals who are, by any stretch of the imagination, doing that because it benefits their pocketbook, not because they don't know. But they are concerned that if their audiences become knowledgeable, smart, intelligent, and understand that 2 plus 2 are 4, then they're no longer able to manipulate their audiences. So they may not have a job. They may not be able to make money because we know those people are not journalists. They're not reporters. They're entertainers who lie to their audiences in order to keep the audiences in their clenches. So the country is not divided between Democrat and Republican, but between those who seek knowledge and those who choose to stay and live in ignorance. The country is not divided between Democrats and Republicans. The country is divided between those who seek the truth and wisdom and those who promote and enjoy falsehoods. Those who make use of their brains and those who simply have outsourced theirs. So it is urgent that the United States is indeed in dire need of a leader. A leader who knows the way, shows the way, and is willing to go all the way.
join me here on the fourth branch at 10:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. every Saturday.
Thank you for spending the time with me. I hope the program was informative, and we hope that as time goes by, we will be able to help you get out of this vicious cycle of sound bites and individuals who are only interested in their own selfish agenda. In the case of those pundits on the radio, on TV, is for their own personal benefit, because the longer you stay ignorant, the better it is for them, because that's the only way for them to continue to have a job and for them to continue to make money. It's through your ignorance. So no, they don't want you to know that 2 + 2 are 4, because it doesn't benefit them. No matter how obvious truth is, they don't want you to go along with the truth, because the truth doesn't bring them money. Giving you something to argue with the other side, because that's really the whole point of keeping you dummified, is because if you cannot know what's true and you're always arguing with somebody else, then there is always division. And that's the way also the Republican legislators end up keeping their job for decades and stay in Washington, because they want you not to believe the truth, so you can always point fingers to the other side. That cannot be two truths. There is only one. Now, how do you know who is telling the truth? Truth is universal. Now, you may not agree with a party, with a political party. You may not agree with an individual. Just like we know during the Obama administration, a lot of Republicans did not have a problem with the policies. Yes, some did have some policy problem, but most individuals who did not like Obama in the Republican Party had nothing to do with policy. We know that. So yes, we know that you may not like an individual, but the truth is the truth. Case in point, when the birther movement started, a good third of the Republican believed that that was the case. Now, that what you call lunacy. It's like saying to someone 2 + 2 are not 4, and that individual believe it. And that's exactly what the fourth branch, this program, that's what it is about. To discuss topic that provide you with information, not information according to Democrats or information according to Republicans, but information that are justifiable, verifiable, and you can base whatever you're doing on that. So it's not based on you. You can make a wrong decision, but it's not going to be made based on wrong information, which is a big difference. If you're going to go out and meteorologists say it's going to rain, now you may decide to go out without an umbrella anyway. It's making the wrong decision, but you have the right information. But would be wrong if the meteorologist said it's not going to rain. Of course, you go out and you get rain on. Now that's not making the wrong decision. It's making a decision based on wrong information. Big difference. And that's unfortunately mostly in the Republican circle, whether it's the legislators or the pundit on the radio, TV, etc., they want you to make decisions based on wrong information. That is a big difference. And this is what the fourth branch is here for. Not to tell you to make decisions for Democrats or to make decisions for Republicans, but rather to provide information on important topics and for you to make decisions, which could be wrong anyway, but decision based on correct information. Once again, I do thank you for spending the time with me. Do write to us, send us your comments, criticism, send us a note, let us know how we're doing, and we hope to see you again tomorrow at the same time. In the meantime, have a good afternoon or a good evening, whichever that happened to be. The Fourth Branch Podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website, located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.